Hey folks, Will here again with Happily Ever Outdoors, and welcome to another Saturday Sit Down. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about me and a little bit about you. So keep watching. Alright folks, so I hope you've been enjoying these Saturday sit down videos. I've been really trying to break it up and do some different stuff. As you guys probably know, if you've been subscribed to my channel, I've been pretty much doing almost solely gear reviews for a long time, and I want to start mixing it up a little bit and trying to connect with you guys a little bit better. So I feel like these videos have been a great way to do that. With that being said, I don't think I've really done a video just to kind of tell you guys about, who I am, where I grew up, kind of where life has brought me so far. So I think it's about time for that video to happen. I hope you guys don't mind if we do a little bit of walking and talking here, but I actually been really busy lately. I haven't had that much time to actually get out and hike and stuff. Been real busy with work and of course with the channel, putting out new videos for you guys and everything. But this was a day I decided to kind of just get out and go for a walk, but at the same time I've still been multitasking. You can probably see I've got dye all over my hands. I actually was testing out the Stanford Outdoor Supply Boss signaling kit today, so you should see a video coming pretty soon on that. So that's a little sneak peek for you guys. But a little bit about me and where I'm from. I was actually born in Everett, Washington in 1986, so that puts me at 31 years old as of today. And I pretty much was, raised in Washington State. So early in my childhood, I grew up in Snohomish, Washington, out in the country. Grew up on a good-sized piece of property. My dad owned about 14 acres, so spent a lot of time out in the woods, building forts, running around, playing hide and seek, doing all that fun stuff. As I got a little bit older, I guess on towards my teenage years, my parents moved into Granite Falls, Washington, kind of right around the base of Mount Pilchuck, right by Mountain Loop Highway. And it's just a really beautiful area. If you've never been up to the Pacific Northwest and Washington State specifically, it's just hard to describe. Everything is just so green, so alive. I know a lot of people complain about the rain. It does rain a lot there. What I tell people is it rains, but it doesn't pour. It's kind of like a continuous rain through a good part of the year, but it's usually pretty light, pretty drizzly. You don't deal with a lot of the extreme weather like I've seen down south since I've moved. So with that being said, I guess right when I was around 20 or 21, I decided to join the Army and the Army Reserves. So, and about a year into that, I actually was pulled for my first mobilization, which basically for an Army Reservist means that you're getting pulled onto active duty, but it's not necessarily overseas. This assignment was actually in Fort Benning, Georgia. So I did that assignment, went with my family. We were there for a year, and that was actually the first time that either one of us had lived outside of the state of Washington. My wife was also born and raised in Washington, and that was kind of what we knew. That was really where almost all of our family was. And so it was really kind of our first time getting out on our own. And that was definitely a change of scenery for sure. Going from, all the way up in the Pacific Northwest down into kind of the deep South. It was about as far as you could go, corner to corner, without moving to Florida. So, I mean, the scenery was a lot different, definitely, when you got out in the woods, completely different when you compared the South to the Pacific Northwest. And the culture was different, the people were different, and it really kind of, I think it started to kind of open my eyes up a little bit to kind of, I guess, the great big world out there, you could say. So we did our year there at Fort Benning. My time came up, I went back to Washington State, back to being an Army Reservist. And I did, I think, only about 9 months there, and another opportunity for a mobilization came up, and it was actually right back to Fort Benning, Georgia, just working the exact same place I was at, just a different company. They asked me to volunteer to go back down, and so I did. So we ended up, doing my year there. We rented a house right across the Chattahoochee River in Alabama. And after I came off MOB, at that point, our family, we just kind of decided to stay put for a while. So we were renting for a while. After that, I took a civilian job, went back to doing the, one weekend a month thing with the reserves. and we settled down. We kind of started to get roots there. We were really involved in our church there, had a lot of good friends and everything, so we had kind of built this life there. So we ended up spending, a number of years there, until I actually got the opportunity. I was picked up for the AGR program with the Army, which, if you're not familiar, the easiest way to explain it is that it's basically you're on active duty, but you work for the Army Reserves as opposed to, the active Army, regular Army, whatever you want to call it. If you think about it, not everybody can be part-time, right? There has to be some full-time guys who kind of, run things, and that's where I fall into. Originally, I came into the Army as a 42 Alpha, which is human resources, so I was a paperwork guy, and about I don't know, 4 years ago now, something like that, if I'm thinking right in my head, I decided to make a career change, and I reclassed over to a 56 Mike, which is actually a religious affairs NCO. So I wanted to have a different career path. I came to a point where I realized if I'm going to keep doing this, I need to do something that I'm passionate about, and human resources wasn't it. And for me, I was drawn to that MOS, that specific job description, because I want to be able to be involved in helping soldiers, working with the chaplains, and getting them the help they need so they can be successful at their jobs and in their lives, their families, and spiritually. So when I was offered that job as a religious affairs NCO full-time, I took it, and it actually moved us. Currently we're in the state of New Jersey, and we'll see where we go from here. But it's definitely been an interesting ride, for my family, going again, originally kind of born and raised Washington State, down to Georgia, back up to Washington, back to Georgia again, living in Alabama, and now back up into New Jersey. But it's also been a really fun ride. I think it's really helped us to grow as individuals and as a family, and to kind of find that independence, and to really kind of get a perspective on what we really want out of life. Sometimes I think just staying in the same place your whole life, it may work great for somebody, don't get me wrong. Some people, it's what they need, it's what they want. But for me, I think I wouldn't be the same person I am today if it wasn't for those experiences. And also along the way, it's kind of ironic, growing up in Washington, arguably one of the most beautiful states in America as far as the outdoors is concerned, and I didn't really have a good appreciation for it. I think when you grow up around something like that, you just kind of take it for granted, and then moving different places, it's made me kind of have that longing for back home. And just last year I was able to take a trip by myself to go back and visit. You can see I've did some videos on my YouTube channel. Some of them are a little bit long, but you can kind of see some of the big hiking trails and stuff right around where I grew up. And, it was like almost looking at it through a new set of eyes. I'm going out with my sister and I'm saying, look at this tree. Can you believe how huge this tree is? Looking at this cedar tree, and wow, look at this, is so amazing. And she's like, yeah, I guess it's cool, But for me, because I've been without it for so long, I think I've gotten a new appreciation for it. I'm looking at it through a different lens, I guess. So that's really my goal. I think long term for our family, that's where we're going to settle down. That's home for us. And it's kind of ironic, I guess, maybe that we had to move all over the country to figure that out. But again, it's, in a way, I guess it's kind of like you're coming back home, but you're not coming back as the same person you were when you left, if that makes sense. Home might be the same in a lot of ways, but you're not the same. You're a different person. So with all of that being said, growing up, my family would take us camping sometimes, and again, I spent a lot of time outdoors as a younger kid, but into my teenage years, I kind of fell out of that. I got into hanging out around the skate park and stuff, and even after I moved, we didn't really spend that much time outdoors as a family, and I didn't get that much time out on my own. It wasn't really, honestly, until a few years back where I really started to get that passion for getting outside and getting outdoors and getting my family out there, and it kind of became this big lifestyle shift, I could say, which along the way, that's kind of where I got the idea of starting up the YouTube channel. I've kind of had an interest in, the videography and stuff and social media and all that for a while, and so it just kind of merged the two. So it's definitely, it's been an interesting ride. We've seen a lot of growth since we've gotten started. You know, if you look at the date on my YouTube channel, it kind of makes it seem like we've been around a lot longer, but actually I basically had a YouTube channel that I just had a few personal videos and stuff posted on, and I ended up converting that over to my YouTube channel. So it's actually really only been going for about a year now, and but it's been a lot of fun. So I'm really excited to kind of take that, you know, wherever we get to next. You know, eventually back in Washington, and you know, between then and now, who knows, you know, and just really kind of sharing that with you guys. But you know, along the way, my family's always been like a core piece of that. My wife and I, we met when we were real young. I think I was 15. She's gonna get on to me if I get this wrong, but I believe that I was 15 and she was 16 when we first met. And when we got married, I was actually only 19 years old. And then my first son, he was born just a few days after my 20th birthday. So I never really lived, you know, the single life. It was pretty much out of my parents' house, in with my wife, and we started having kids. And while that's certainly not for everybody, and it definitely doesn't work out for a lot of people, it's worked out well for us, I think. There's been struggles along the way, we've had difficulties, but we've always managed to stay you know, best friends, and because that was how our relationship started. It didn't start as we just started dating. It started as we were really good friends, and then it just kind of along the way became more than that, I guess. And I think that's part of what's always kind of kept us strong, even through the tough times. So as of right now, we've been married for 11 years, going on 12 years. It'll be 12 years this year, coming up in April 1st, if you can believe it. April Fool's Day. But it wasn't a prank. We've still stuck it out. So we've got 3 kids. Our oldest is my son, Gabriel. He just turned 11, and he's a great kid. He's doing real good in school. He's real smart, kind of a smart aleck like me, which gets him in trouble sometimes. But he's started playing the saxophone, and he started getting into kind of learning some of the survival skills and stuff with me too, which has been really great. We've also got 2 daughters. Our daughter Scarlett, she is 10 years old. I think I got that right. And she's just smart as a whip. She's very athletic, loves sports and stuff like that. She's just a tough cookie. And then our youngest, Naomi, she's 6 years old, going on 7, and she is just the most lovable, huggable little kid you'll ever meet. Now, one of the things I don't think I've ever addressed on this channel, and maybe down the road I might try to do a little more in-depth video and kind of talk about this. Both of our daughters are living with autism. Now, our oldest daughter, Scarlett, she's a little more moderate. It doesn't give her a lot of issues with her speech or learning. She has a little more difficulty kind of with, I guess, the emotional side of things, kind of understanding other people, kind of the way they feel, the way they think. So that can be kind of tough for her sometimes. I think she just kind of thinks about things and feels about things a little bit differently, you know, maybe than your typical child does. And so sometimes things kind of get lost in translation, you know, when she's dealing with other kids. Even with all that, she's been doing really great. And like I said, she's a tough kid, very athletic, loves sports and stuff like that. So as she's getting older, we're kind of figuring out where to really, you know, plug her into that kind of stuff, because that seems like just a really good outlet for her, a great way for her to express herself. Our youngest, Naomi, or Nini Bug, as we like to call her, faces a little more substantial challenges, I guess you could say. She's going on 7 years old right now, but kind of in terms of her speech and, you know, cognitive functioning, it's closer to around like a 2-year-old. Thankfully, you know, we don't struggle with some of the issues like the extreme anger, mood swings, you know, violence or anything like that that I know some parents of children with autism deal with. She's generally, you know, really kind of sweet-natured and soft and kind, and always kind of in a good mood, which, you know, makes things a little bit easier for us as parents. But she definitely faces some, you know, significant challenges. You know, reading and writing isn't there at this point at all. Again, her speech it's very limited. And, you know, we're currently actually working on trying to finish up getting her potty trained, which she's been doing really great at recently. With all that being said, though, you know, it can be tough. It's tough on her sometimes. I think, you know, other kids don't always understand what she's trying to do when she's trying to play with them and things like that. And you know, other kids sometimes feel like maybe she's ignoring them and things like that just because of the way she interacts, or sometimes kind of, you know, doesn't interact. But she's been doing real well. I mean, we have her doing a lot of therapy, things like that, as much as we can, at doctor's offices and in-house now. The state of New Jersey has been really, really great as far as the services provided. But it's kind of a full-time job, you know, for my wife especially, and that can wear on her sometimes. And I think it's one of those things people don't really talk about that much, you know, because they're worried about what people will think, or whether they'll understand. You know, people will pass judgments on what you're doing for your kids, or try to say, well, I read an article about this or about that, or, you know, I don't think autism is a real thing. You know, we've heard all those different lines from people, and sometimes it's folks who are well-meaning, sometimes not so much. But, you know, either way, I think sometimes that makes it easy as an autism parent to get kind of isolated and get kind of cut off from the world. But I think it's an important topic to discuss, and there's not enough, you know, there's not enough dialogue about it these days. And the reality of it is that it affects everyone. You know, it's not a cultural thing, it's not a race thing, it's not a what part of the country or the world you live in, what your hobbies are, you know, it's everybody. And, you know, the reality is for, you know, folks like us who love to get outdoors, love to take their kids outdoors, it presents its own set of challenges, you know. She's not in a position where if she got lost, for example, that she could easily tell somebody who she was, you know, and who she belonged to, and point them towards our campground. You know, she can't do that. So my wife has done a lot of research on, like, emergency bracelets with our contact information on there, you know, things like that, so if she ever got separated, that they'd be able to get a hold of us. But it's a constant challenge. And when she was younger, you know, she had a really scary habit of running off, trying to get out the house when she could, and taking off up the street, out in public. She would dart off and just run away, and, you know, you would turn your back for a second and she'd be gone. And so my wife had to put, you know, or research, and I put on extra locks and things like that on our doors. I put on buzzers, you know, like you'd see at a convenience store, to chime whenever the door opened, to help with that. And thankfully the therapy in the last few years has really helped a lot with that, and it's not as much of an issue anymore. But you can definitely see where that would be scary, you know, going out camping or hiking in a state or a national park. You know, you could see how quickly something could go wrong. She never really had a sense of danger either, you know, when it came to water, heights, you know, animals, things like that. So that can be a little challenging, you know, and sometimes that can be very discouraging. And honestly, there's some trips where it's stopped us from going, or maybe it's caused us to go home early or not do specific things, just because of kind of that caution and that fear that comes along with that sometimes. So if that is something, you know, that you live with, whether as a parent or maybe it's a friend or it's yourself, I just want to encourage you that you're not alone in it. There's folks all over the place who deal with this on a daily basis. It's part of their lives, it's part of who they are, and, you know, I'm one of them. And I wish I would have, I guess, maybe opened up more of a dialogue on this a long time ago, but I want to try to take that opportunity now, and I want to take that opportunity moving forward a little bit more. But the reality is, you know, it's a part of life, it's part of who I am, it's part of who my family is, and I don't know that I would have it any other way. You know, I'm a Christian, and I believe that, you know, God has a purpose and a plan for everything that happens in our lives, and so I just have to trust Him with this, you know. And moving forward, we're doing everything we can to get her the best therapy we can, you know, to give her the best opportunity that we can in life, to be able to, you know, excel as much as possible. But whatever her limitations are, or whatever her differences are, you know, from your typical child into being a teenager into being an adult. We're going to be there for her every step of the way, and it doesn't make her any less of a person. It just makes her unique and special in the way she was created by God, and that's the way I see it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know it wasn't technically a sit down the whole way. It was more of a leisurely walk through the park. But I want to encourage you guys. I'd love to hear a little bit about your story. You know, if somebody asked you to kind of condense your life down into a paragraph or two of kind of, you know, where you came from, what your experiences were growing up, you know, what it is you love about the outdoors, why you love the outdoors, what motivates you to get out, your struggles, you know, your successes in life. I want to hear that in the description below. I know there's a lot of you folks that I've got to connect with through the comments, either on my channel or your channel, some of you through other social media outlets, Facebook, things like that, and we've kind of got to know each other just a little bit. But let's try to get to know each other just a little bit better. So whether you have a YouTube channel or you don't have a YouTube channel, let's hear about you. I want to hear your story, and so that we can all kind of grow this community a little bit here. Of course, before we head out, I am going to share with you guys our featured small outdoor content creator of the week. But it's starting to really cool off out here, and I get the feeling it is about to rain. So let's go ahead and take you back to the house, and we will wrap this video up. All right, folks, so let's talk a little bit about this week's featured small outdoor content creator, and that's going to be Shawn of Hiking with Shawn. Now, kind of ironically, I connected with Shawn around, I think, middle of last year because he won one of our giveaways, and so that's kind of how I met him, came across his channel, and now we've gotten to know each other a little better since then. He's got a really good channel with a lot of hiking videos, primarily focused kind of around the Shawnee National Forest in southern Illinois area. He actually wrote a really good bio that he sent to me, so I'm going to go ahead and read that to you guys. Okay, it says, "My name is Shawn, and my channel is Hiking with Shawn, where I focus on hiking and outdoor recreation, specifically in the Shawnee National Forest in southern Illinois. I'm in my 30s and having the best time of my life. I work in quality assurance and volunteer my time to my community when I can in the emergency management sector. I have 2 master's degrees, including one in emergency management and an MBA. Aside from hiking and outdoors, I'm an avid cyclist, webmaster, and I enjoy volunteering in emergency services." And his motivation for doing his YouTube channel, it says, "The Shawnee National Forest is one of the smallest national forests in the United States. It took several tries to get it, and it is uniquely diversified with all of its features. What motivates me to continue is to promote outdoor recreation in our forest and state parks, and to encourage healthy patrons, as well as to promote my own health, intelligence, and passion for preserving nature. The outdoor community on YouTube is some of the nicest folks I've ever met, and I feel that I couldn't do YouTube without them. And I couldn't agree more. Having a strong community really makes it a lot easier to stay motivated. We're not fighting against each other, and I think some people on YouTube kind of see it that way, like we're competition, which I guess to a certain extent, you know, we're all trying to get view time and all that stuff. But if our motivation's in the right place, we're not competing against each other. We're working together towards a common goal, and that's what I really appreciate about Shawn, about his attitude, about his approach to his YouTube channel. He's just a great guy to know, and he has a great YouTube channel, so I definitely encourage you, check it out. Go ahead and give him a like, check out some of his videos, and if it's your kind of content, why don't you go ahead and subscribe. So I definitely appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with us in this Saturday morning sit-down video. Like I mentioned earlier, I would love to hear your story, kind of your background, where you came from, why you're passionate about the outdoors, just like Shawn shared with us. So please make sure you drop that in the comments below, and don't forget to check out Shawn's channel. I'll have the links to his social media in the description below, and as well as it should pop up on the screen for you. Also, we've got 2 more of our waterproof, weatherproof, Happily Ever Outdoors decals up for grabs. So the first 2 people to comment below claiming them, who are within the continental United States or Canada, we'll go ahead and mail these out to you. So thank you guys once again for watching. Thanks for everything you do to support our channel, as well as the rest of the small outdoor content creator community here on YouTube. And until next time, stay happy and stay outdoors.